Today, we're going to dive deep inside your neck to find 4 glands, so tiny they're each about the size of a grain of rice, that hold an incredible amount of power over your entire body. This is the story of parathyroid hormone, your body's unsung hero and master calcium manager.
But, before we can even meet the manager, we have to understand exactly what it's managing. And it all boils down to one absolutely critical element: calcium.
So let me ask you a quick question. When you hear the word calcium, what's the first thing that pops into your head? For pretty much everyone, it's strong bones, right? Maybe teeth. Well, turns out that's just barely scratching the surface. Yeah, it's so much more than just a building block. Calcium is actually the spark that allows your nerves to fire off signals. It's the key that lets your muscles contract. I mean, every single beat of your heart depends on having a perfectly controlled level of calcium. It's like the electricity that runs your entire body. So you can see why this is so important. With calcium playing all these vital roles, your body absolutely cannot afford to have too much or too little. It needs a really precise, really powerful system to keep it all in check. A perfect feedback loop. And that brings us to the star of our show. So let's pull back the curtain and meet these tiny, hidden powerhouses. They're tucked away right behind your thyroid gland. I mean, most people have never even heard of the 4 parathyroid glands, but I promise you, without them, our bodies would be in some serious, serious trouble. This is just a perfect example of that whole don't judge a book by its cover idea in anatomy. They're only about 6 millimeters long, and honestly, they just kind of look like dark brown fat. But inside are these specialized chief cells, and their one and only job is to produce and release parathyroid hormone, or PTH for short. So how does this one little hormone perform its magic trick? Let's take a look at PTH's incredible balancing act. This quote from our source material really says it all. PTH is that powerful mechanism. Its entire existence is dedicated to just one thing: constantly sensing the calcium level in your blood and making sure it's just right. The second it senses that your calcium levels have dropped even a tiny bit, PTH just springs into action. And it doesn't just do one thing. It has this coordinated 3-pronged strategy to get your blood calcium back to where it needs to be. It targets 3 key areas in your body: your bones, your kidneys, and your intestines. Okay, first stop. PTH goes right to the body's calcium bank, your bones. It sends a signal telling your bones to release just a little bit of their massive calcium reserves into the bloodstream. Think of it like making a small withdrawal from your savings account to cover an immediate expense.
Next up, PTH acts like a master recycler. It talks to your kidneys and basically says, hey, whatever you do, don't let any of that valuable calcium escape in the urine. So the kidneys obey, and they pull that calcium back into the blood. It's all about conserving what we already have.
And finally, PTH plays this really smart, indirect role in bringing in new calcium. It actually boosts the activation of vitamin D in your body. And you need vitamin D for your intestines to be able to absorb calcium from the food you eat. So PTH makes sure you're getting every last drop of calcium from your diet. Pretty clever, right? So that's how it's supposed to work. It's a beautifully tuned system. But what happens when it breaks? First, let's see what happens when there's too little PTH. That condition is called hypoparathyroidism. It's pretty simple, really. If the glands don't pump out enough PTH, that whole system we just talked about, it just shuts down. Calcium doesn't get pulled from the bones, it's not saved by the kidneys, and the result is what we call hypocalcemia, dangerously low levels of calcium in your blood. And remember all those critical jobs we said calcium has? Well, when the levels drop too low, you feel the effects right away. Your nerves get all twitchy, which causes tingling, your muscles start to cramp and spasm, your brain can feel foggy, and even your heart's rhythm can become abnormal. It all comes back to a lack of that electrical spark. But the most dangerous symptom of all is something called tetany. Now, this isn't just a simple muscle cramp. We're talking about a powerful, involuntary contraction of the muscles. And when this happens in the muscles of your throat, the larynx, it can actually block your breathing, which makes it a life-threatening emergency. Okay, so let's flip the coin and look at the exact opposite problem. What happens when this system goes into complete overdrive? Well, that's called hyperparathyroidism. So in this case, one or more of those parathyroid glands becomes overactive and just starts pumping out way too much PTH. This creates a constant raised calcium signal, which leads to hypercalcemia, way too much calcium floating around in the blood. And there are really 2 main ways this can happen.
In primary hyperparathyroidism, the problem is with the gland itself, usually a small, non-cancerous tumor that's causing it to go rogue. But in secondary hyperparathyroidism, the glands are actually okay. They're just overworking to make up for some other problem in the body, like a severe vitamin D deficiency or chronic kidney failure.
And having too much calcium, well, it affects the whole body, but in a totally different way. It actually has a depressive effect. The nervous system becomes sluggish, which can lead to fatigue and confusion. Your bones can actually get weak because calcium is constantly being pulled from them. And all that extra calcium can form painful kidney stones.
But whether there's too much or too little, the goal is always the same. We have to restore that delicate calcium balance.
And the strategies to fix things are pretty much polar opposites. For hypoparathyroidism, where calcium is too low, the goal is to raise it, usually with high doses of vitamin D and calcium supplements. For hyperparathyroidism, especially the primary kind, the most common fix is surgery to just remove the overactive gland. There are also some clever drugs called calcimimetics, which basically trick the gland into thinking there's enough calcium already, so it calms down and makes less PTH.
So, 4 tiny little glands, 1 critical hormone, and this incredibly intricate balancing act that keeps our bodies humming along every second of every single day. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? What other hidden systems are out there, perfectly managing the entire universe that exists inside of you?